Cloudcast Media.
Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
Hello all, I'm Dr. Mark Milliron, president of National University and special guest host of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, the nation's longest running community podcast, now in its 18th year. Drew Schlosberg is on vacation, but I'm joined by my co-host today, Dr. Nancy Rohland Heinrich. Hello, Nancy.
Hello, great to be here. I'm very excited about this interview.
We are pleased to have in the studio today the amazing Scott Wahl, Chief of Police for the San Diego Police Department. How are you, Chief Wahl?
I'm doing very well. Happy Friday.
Yeah, we're all the more excited because you are an alumni of National University, right?
That's right. Proud alum.
Good. So you have been in this role for how long now?
Well, I think we're approaching the 5th month here, so it's still very new.
So you have it all under control. You have it all handled.
All the changes are done, and we're moving forward.
Well, you have a long history, though, with the San Diego Police Department. Talk a bit about that history, what you bring to this role.
Well, the history, it goes back to, I'm born and raised here in San Diego, and I'm the son of a San Diego police officer, so I grew up running around the station with my dad.
Wow.
Grew up believing the words written on the side of our police cars that this is America's finest police department. I've always believed this is America's finest city. Very early on in my life, I knew this is where I wanted to raise my family. This is where I wanted to live, and I couldn't be more proud to be in the position that I'm in, leading this organization today.
Yeah, that's one of those things where, like, I'm a Navy brat. My dad was a Master Chief, passed away about 15 years ago. But I've told Nancy before, like, leading a university like National University that's so focused on the military, but in particular the Navy. When I was standing on the deck of the Midway talking about National University at our fundraiser, you were there.
That's right.
I was like, I know Dad's in heaven looking down, like just happy as can be that his son's doing this, for the military, which is kind of great. It's got to be the same thing with you.
Yeah, and first, that was a very special night, and you guys did an amazing job. I'm very proud, again, as an alum, but also being there in my current role made it special for me as well to be there. So thank you for that. We're going to get into a lot of these things today when it comes to kind of the vision and the plan moving forward. We are just in a very interesting time, I think, in our country's history. Not just based on the recent elections, but the complex world that we live in, and recognizing how with social media and the internet, how fast the world evolves and changes today is so much more rapid than it was 10, 20, 30 years ago. And law enforcement has to adapt to that. And really, I'm trying to come in and make us a more agile, flexible organization so that we can not only meet the demands of today, but be ready for the demands of tomorrow. And that's tough, and I'm sure it is in your business as well.
Yeah, I mean, as we do the work in education, we've kind of adopted our own theory of change, which is if we're going to adapt like that, we want to embrace. And I'd love to get your take on, because I think there's probably a connection. We want to embrace next generation education, which is saying we want to honor all the work that's been done in education before. Sure. But we want to advance the practice, which means we want to use new technology, new techniques, new policies, new practices that'll advance education. We know that as we do that, because of the students we serve, we need to wrap that with whole human support, which means the right resource at the right time, the right support. Some students need to get out of their way because they're rock stars.
Right.
Others, it's really providing the right kind of support for them. But if we use next generation education wrapped in whole human and then aim it at what we call value-rich education, and for us, that means the family of credentials, certifications, diploma, degrees, connections, because often those personal connections with other students, with faculty, with professionals, and then what we call experience-rich, where they're having the transformative experiences. That's what's going to really help them learn well, finish strong, but launch effectively. We always say people don't come to us because they want to get a degree. They come to us because they want to change their lives. The degree is a means to that end, right? If you're doing it. But I think about in your work, is probably the same thing. What's next generation policing? What's the right kind of support for your the people who serve and the people they're serving? And then, like, what is the value that you all bring in terms of public safety, community engagement? Like, just talk a bit about it, because you've been doing that work. Like, you've been leaning into, like, what's your vision for the future?
Correct. And you're talking about meeting the demands and the needs of the future when it comes to education. And I'm trying to do the same thing when it comes to public safety. Yeah. What is our role? What are community expectations of law enforcement? And as an employer, how are we helping all of our individual officers raise families, live lives where they also have other meaning and purpose besides, protecting and serving? And so we're taking a very hard look at some of the things that traditionally we've done the same way. Shift schedules, very difficult, right, to raise a family. We have a goal of 30% of our organization being women by 2030. It's an ambitious goal. We're a little behind on that. We need to do better. But some of the things that we're looking at and we've recently done is bring childcare into our facilities so that women can come in and they can raise a family, they can be a mom and be a professional public servant. Taking a look at things like that, looking at maybe hybrid shift schedules. So those that like a 4-10 schedule where you work 4 10-hour days, or maybe a 12-hour shift, 3 12-hour shift schedule works better. That way we can have officers that kind of jump to those schedules that meet their needs. They can still protect and serve, but also have that work-life balance that's so critical, especially in such intense times where this is a difficult job, and having that time away is so important.
So much of this, kind of ideation and visioning of what's possible has got to be taking the time. I mean, obviously, your lived experience over the over decades, but now as you're stepping into this role, it's always different when you're stepping into the role. You have to have, you've probably gone on a listening tour, an engagement tour to kind of really hear about those issues. Talk a bit about the process you went through to kind of just learn, more about what's going on so you can really ideate against what those issues are.
Well, I have so much to say about that. First of all, to get to the role that I'm in right now, didn't just start with, I think I'll throw my name in the hat and see what happens, right? I've been preparing for this for many, many years, for decades. I've been really trying to analyze community needs and demands. I've been looking at where law enforcement is falling short in society, and really trying to develop the right organizational structure that meets those demands. And so I was ready to go, and I went all in on this application process. I laid out my vision and my plan throughout 14 different interviews. It was, hey, this is what I'm going to bring to the table. And if it makes sense, and this is, to the mayor and to council, if this is what you're looking for, then great, I'm your guy. If not, no hard feelings. You look at one of the other 60 or 70
That's
candidates.
pretty important, being authentic about where you want to go.
Well, I'm not pretending, I'm not faking. It makes it actually easier for me. I know exactly what I want to do, exactly where I want to go. And now it goes back to that organizational leadership degree that I got from National University. How do you implement that change effectively? How do you communicate that vision and then put the right people together to help see that vision through?
Yeah, and part of it really is making the organization one where people can rise and thrive. And Nancy, I know you had a question related to that.
Yes. And, I know that currently in law enforcement, lots of challenges with recruiting, retention of officers, diversifying your workforce. How does education and education benefits fall into that?
Well, let me start by saying I have an expectation that as a culture, we're seeking constant improvement. We don't always get it right. We're not perfect. Yet society demands perfection out of our police officers, right? And I think if we're going to be authentic about creating true change and increasing performance overall as an organization, that we need to be humble enough to know that we're not going to hit the mark every time. And when we do, we need to take a step back and analyze what could we have done differently. I think by allowing a community voice and community input, partnering in our process in policing goes a long ways in making sure that we are bringing the right approach to each and every neighborhood and being unique enough to adapt when those needs are different in one neighborhood from the next.
Yeah. And as you lean into that work, are you like, as you're trying to kind of skill up your team, I know you've leaned pretty hard into education benefits for your folks. Talk a bit about why that's important.
Yeah. Well, I think that mindset of constant improvement goes along with looking at the person in the mirror. Yeah. Right. And I think when you have that constant improvement mindset, you're reading books, you're continuing your education, you're sharpening your skills and not letting them perish over time. And when you do that, you're going to be the dinosaur in the industry. This world is just evolving and changing so rapidly now more than ever. Education and continuing education is going to be critical to your success and thriving into the future.
There's a classic quote from Eric Hoffer where he says, the future belongs to the learners. The learned are usually equipped to live in a world that no longer exists, right? So it's the idea
So
that,
true.
yeah, you definitely want to honor all the experience people have, but realize things are changing. Like we're having to connect into that. And part of that, you just talked about the changing world that we're in. It is, if you're going to do true community policing, one, I'd love for you just to unpack, what does community-centric policing look like? Because it really is kind of movement around the country, and I know you've embraced it. Talk a bit about what people should expect around that philosophy.
Sure. So I'm referring to it as community-supported policing. Yeah. And it's a subtle difference. But when I hear from one commanding officer to another that issue X or issue Y is happening in the neighborhood, and here's what we plan to do, typically that approach has been, we're going to take police officers and we're going to take enforcement action to fix the problem. What I ask is, what does the community say about that approach? When you take that kind of approach, while it may have worked well in the 90s and early 2000s, that heavy enforcement approach also ends up contributing to disparities in our numbers, or it leaves us vulnerable to having disparities in our numbers. And if we're not taking a careful approach at, are there other things that we can do? Maybe there's a public awareness campaign that we can do. Maybe we can try community leaders addressing those issues where we don't need to have the enforcement, but we still get the corrective action. And so having a community-supported policing approach, when you bring that to the community and they say, well, let's try this first, let's be open to it.
Yeah. You're learning together with the community, which is kind of brilliant.
100%.
Got a lot of love it. You've been listening to the Spotlight on the Community Show with Chief Scott Wahl of the San Diego Police Department. We'll be right back after a short.
When you do your banking with Mission Fed, you get great rates on auto and home loans. That's good for you, but something good also happens for a lot of other people. We're not for profit, so we put money back into the community to help lots of great nonprofits to keep San Diego strong. So you're not just getting something good, you're doing something good. Come to Mission Fed. It's banking that's good for all.
Brand amplification is the DNA of Cloudcast Media, and our code is the powerful blending of sound, voice, and storytelling to lift local brands and their communities. Whether it is our Brandcast, Schoolcast, or Causecast platforms, the unifying ethos is all about this community, the one you call home. If you dare to dream and want to explore the brand amplification of Cloudcast, a national leader in local podcasting and other Winfluence strategies, please visit us at cloudcast.us.
Okay, we are back with San Diego Police Chief Scott Wahl. My name is Dr. Mark Milliron, president of National University, the special guest host of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, the nation's longest-running community podcast, now in its 18th year. The show is brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, that for more than 6 decades has been supporting key causes and initiatives in San Diego County, from food insecurity to literacy to arts education and beyond. Drew Schlosberg is on vacation, but I am joined today by co-host Dr. Nancy Rohland Heinrich from National University. Nancy.
Hi, great to be here, especially with Chief Scott Wahl. And would like to ask Chief a quick question. Is over the last decade, there's been some phenomenal police chiefs in the San Diego area. How do you believe the role has changed, and how are you acclimating to the change of what a police chief what was needed 2 decades ago, a decade ago, and today has obviously changed a lot.
Well, it sure has. And I've been very fortunate. About 2015, 2014, somewhere in there, our chief at the time was Shelley Zimmerman.
We know her well.
I know you do. She's been working with National University since she retired. She brought me in as her spokesperson. I didn't know a darn thing about media, but I had told her many years before that I had aspirations of one day being the police chief. And so she brought me in. I remember her sitting me down and saying, I know you want to be the police chief one day. I know this is going to be a steep learning curve, learning the media world, but this will benefit you more than any other assignment that I could put you in. And she couldn't have been more correct. It was a huge learning curve, but one that when I got into this role, I knew right away I had to be able to engage in the media and be able to understand how to talk in sound bites. And so that was a gift. But the other gift that came was I had a chance to sit kind of right seat of her and watch the things that she went through and watch how she made decisions, take good notes. And then when Dave Nizai came in, I was able to kind of do the same as now had promoted to a commanding officer position. So I was able to watch and learn from both of them and hold both in very high regard because the world was changing. And I could see between one chief and the next, the challenges that they faced. I mean, Dave faced, I think, the most difficult time in our history during those COVID years were super challenging. And with George Floyd, just a very difficult time in policing. And so it really helped prepare me for today and to hit the ground running. Yeah.
And we always say that you want to make sure you're doing that kind of learning with, we jokingly call it the CASE method. CASE stands for copy and steal everything. Like there's all kinds of good ideas.
No shame in that.
Things you want to pull in. Hey, tell us a little bit about the Community and Youth Services division that you're pulling together.
Sure. I'm very proud of that division, and this is why. We have been a pioneer in community policing for many decades. In the 90s, we were the national model for how to engage in the community. We continue the same methodology today, and that's not a bad thing. We decentralize our focus with community policing, meaning each one of our area stations has community relations officers that get to know the leaders and the folks that live in that area so we can be unique to that neighborhood. That's a good thing. But as a city of this size with 1.5 million people, we need to make sure that we have a focused, centralized approach so that we have parity across the city with all the different programs that are available. We have consistent messaging when it comes to what we're telling the community. And in order to do that, I had to have a centralized focus. There are a lot of things that kind of percolate up that transcend just a neighborhood approach. For example, we have different groups. We have the LGBTQ community. We have the deaf community. We have, African-American community. We have all these different communities that don't just stay in one neighborhood. They transcend all different areas. How are we connecting with those groups? So bringing that centralized approach allows us to engage at a much higher level, which is part of my vision moving forward.
You get to build a cultural competence of connecting with all those different folks, right?
Absolutely.
Kind of pulling that in. Talk a bit about what are the challenging things of serving in your kind of role. And by the way, my family goes back in military service and in police service generations. My grandmother was actually back what they used to call a police matron.
Oh, no
right?
kidding.
So it's been being a part of it. And one of the things that I hear a lot from folks who are involved in policing, I'd love to get your take on this, is just how important it is to braid the work of the police department with all the other social services and other corporate connections and other, but braiding with all the other resources to make sure you can make the biggest impact in your community. You can't go it alone. You actually have to figure out how do you bring all those resources together. Talk a bit about how you kind of work that magic.
Well, I'm going to give you a secret, and all your listeners a secret today. It takes a village.
Yeah.
And if you have that kind of mindset and approach, you understand that the police department is not the solution for everything. Yeah. We're a stakeholder. We're a partner. And when we collaborate and work together, we can accomplish so much more. When you take issues like homelessness, very difficult, very challenging as a society, even more perplexing for law enforcement. But when you work collaboratively with all the service providers that are out there, when you bring in mental health clinicians, when you bring in registered nurses, social workers, you begin to see positive progress and you connect people to the services and the help that's available. And all of our neighborhoods are healthier, safer, and stronger when we do that.
You got to love that. You got to love it. I also know one of your initiatives is to make sure San Diego is not shy about telling its story. There is good work happening here, and you want to make sure that make sure the community understands the work that the police department's doing, but also that there is a connection really in the community of practice, that community of practice of other police agencies around the country, because there really is good learning to be shared. And part of it is you got to give some of your gifts, like what are the things you're doing and how do you be a part of it? What do you plan to do to make sure we're telling the story the right way?
Well, it's very simple. You either publish or you perish.
Right.
You need to constantly be engaging in all of the different formats and platforms that are out there, telling your story. I think you need to have for many, many decades, it's been a national approach. I'm trying to bring an international approach. We have the busiest border crossing in the world here in the southern part of San Diego. Having police officers that have that global perspective so that they can engage with folks in all of the different diverse communities that we have here and make sure that they understand cultural differences is very complex. I'm very proud to say we today have 2 police officers in an academy over in Abu Dhabi.
Wow.
For the sole purpose of learning and understanding culture. They're going to bring back the things that they learn in a 4-month academy over there. We run a very good academy here, so I don't expect they're going to, learn necessarily too much about policing tactics, but there might be a few things that they do take away. But really the importance of networking and connecting around the world is very important moving forward.
Yeah. What's interesting, you're talking about that, building the community of practice. National, over the next few days, we'll be hosting the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives. It's called NOBLE, national organization, police chiefs from all over the country. You're going to be deeply involved in those kind of larger conversations. And part of it is envisioning what the creation of a command college would look like. And part is to build those leadership skills and rising senior leaders in law enforcement. Talk a bit about, again, that organization and kind of the importance of the connections like that.
Well, there are 2 things I want to touch on. One, very appreciative and thankful that National University is going to be partnering and bringing that group here to the West Coast. I think that's significant. Secondly, National's ability to bring a person-specific approach to education to this industry is critical. Speaking from the San Diego Police Department, we have 2,500 people in our organization. And the history of policing, we all do it the same way. You test well, you network a little bit, you know how to talk crime stats, you could percolate your way all the way to the top of this organization. It doesn't mean you know a single thing about leadership or management and running a complex organization. Things like dealing with community engagement, tough issues like homelessness, solving, addiction challenges, mental health challenges, that requires higher levels of education. And if you are not educating our leaders in this profession, we're going to continue to have leaders that come up and they are not meeting the needs of today and they're not running these organizations properly. And we're going to be left behind quickly. We'll be the dinosaur. So seeing groups like Noble come to San Diego is a great way for us to kind of show what we're doing here, great way for us to network, and very proud that National University is right involved with that.
No, we love partnering with you on that. And again, part of it is building that larger community of practice and building the connections. So one of the things I'd love to have you talk a bit about is there is the skill set in leaders in law enforcement around the country around how they approach data. And for a while, it was very quantitative. But now it seems people are realizing, hey, it's got to be quantitative and qualitative. It's got to be looking at the hard numbers, but also looking at that cultural competence and those larger connections. Just talk about, kind of your perspective on leveraging data thoughtfully and making sure you're getting that, right to the front lines.
Yeah. I've been a little bit silent on some of the changes that we're making in terms of our crime analysis and our data-driven approach. But I've added staff and I've moved different entities around under a single chain of command that is focusing on our research, our analysis, and our planning moving forward. I think, when we look at crimes, we've done it typically from, this week compared to last year, the same week. And that is such a small snapshot. That doesn't give you any trend lines of where we're going as a city. What do those trend lines look like in each neighborhood? maybe there's certain neighborhoods that are trending that are really throwing those numbers off. And if we can address the issue there, it's gonna level it out citywide. We are very fortunate here in San Diego that our crime numbers are trending in the right direction. Right. And this is a very safe city. I attribute that to our partnerships. My top priority, it will always be my top priority, is building trust in the communities. If we have good relationships and trust, we're going to work together and we're going to keep the crime levels low, and people are going to have that feeling of being safe.
Talk about that feeling, because I know part of the challenges in your work is even if the numbers show you the trends are going down, this is where the art of communication really comes in. You've got to make sure you can let folks feel that, right? And have a sense of it. And there's always like I jokingly call it the clickbait catastrophe, where people want to find the one thing that's going to be the terrible example. And even though rates are better than ever, people feel less safe because it's being like that one thing is being shown on TV or on social media all over the place. Just talk about the art of kind of being able to communicate that effectively.
Yeah, well, I think one, it comes down to those relationships. They're so critically important that when you know police officers and you have the ability to be able to reference what you're seeing on social media with, that's not the police department, the police officers that I know. So I'm going to question what I'm seeing on social media before I jump to conclusions. The same thing comes with crime trends. We have to be able to communicate and make all of our portals, our dashboards available to the community and the public. They can research it on their own. I think that all tends to go towards that transparency that really helps foster the trust that's necessary. And really, kind of switching gears just a little bit, we've really had a high focus on officer wellness, because I think that you have the same phenomenon that we're seeing today in the community. It happens with police officers. When you go to call every day and you're seeing negativity, I want to make sure our police officers aren't wrapping a perception around, human beings all being, in a negative environment. Understanding that we're dealing with a very small portion of society. Totally.
I mean, I have two final questions as we're kind of wrapping up, and one really related on that one. It really is, if you're going to care about the people who are especially doing the frontline work, for folks who are police officers and nurses and others, there's something called emotional contagion, where when you're dealing with tragedy and trauma all the time, like that ends up kind of seeping in, and it really does, to be blunt about it, mess with your mental health.
100%.
It actually can mess with your physical health. It causes like your cortisol to go out of control, like all kinds of stuff. Talk a bit about the importance of making sure, we call it the whole human perspective. It is, how do you actually think about the mental and physical health of the people on your teams?
Yeah, well, there's absolutely science behind exactly what you're saying. And it's unfortunate because I think we've had multiple generations of public safety officials that have gone through this without understanding why they feel the way they feel. And they come out of a 30-year career and they're just, they're very bitter and bent on society. And that when you see somebody that's come into this line of work, they want to serve and they want to help others, and then they walk away so frustrated and disgruntled. It's an indication that we're not doing our part as an organization to make sure that employee wellness is at the forefront, that we're allowing officers to have counseling services that are completely covered, and the ability to kind of step away from that frontline work and do some other engagement stuff where we're meeting with people in a positive interaction. And so you have that balance that's so important. Also making sure that we're not overworking our employees beyond the 40-hour work week where we have mandatory overtimes, and those types of things are so catastrophic because when you have that off-duty time where you are with family and friends, it helps you balance out and maintain that perspective that people are good, right?
It's the classic
Life is
taking
good.
the time to sharpen the saw thing, right?
Absolutely.
You got to pull it together. So last question. Hey, you're deep in this work now. You are in the role, kind of rolling. What has you most excited about the road ahead for the San Diego Police Department?
Well, I am so proud of this profession. I'm so proud to be a part of it. I see people that are here wanting to protect and serve and make a difference in society, and to lead people that are willing to put their lives on the line for people they don't even know is just such an honor I can't put words to. Yeah. But I couldn't be more excited to be in this role and the bright future we have ahead.
Scott, we are thrilled that you are in this role. I'd like to thank San Diego Police Chief Scott Wahl for joining us today. I'd also like to thank our co-host, Nancy Rohland Heinrich, the EVP of Community Engagement at National University. I'm Dr. Mark Milliron, President of National University, special guest host for Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show. We'll look forward to our next conversation.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
Cloudcast Media.